Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into the incredibly fascinating, wildly dual life of a true maverick. We're talking about Robert Edward Turner III, but of course, you probably know him better as Ted Turner. When you look at his wealth and his resources today, you uncover a story of just dramatic transformation. It's really the tale of this loud, aggressive media pioneer who completely conquered the airwaves, only to eventually retreat and quietly conquer the Earth itself. Figuring out exactly how his wealth shifted from satellites in the sky down to the soil gives us an absolute masterclass in shifting legacies. So we're going to map out how he built his empire, how he nearly lost the whole thing, and how his immense net worth actually functions today.
Now you might be wondering, how exactly did the eccentric billionaire who essentially invented the frantic, non-stop 24-hour news cycle pivot so drastically? Like, how does a guy go from sitting in a bustling control room, literally shaping global headlines, to becoming one of the world's biggest bison ranchers, hyper-focused on quiet conservation? Well, to understand the massive resources he controls today, we first have to understand the fire that built his original empire.
Okay, let's dive into this. Act 1. The 24-hour news pioneer. To really grasp Ted Turner's relentless drive, you have to look at where he started. His upbringing was super strict and highly disciplined, mostly driven by a father who had these just soaring expectations. But then, in 1963, a profound tragedy struck when his father took his own life, and this forced a very young Ted Turner to suddenly step up. But he didn't just inherit a business, He used it as a springboard. He took massive financial risks, leaping from the family's billboard advertising business straight into radio, and then he just started swallowing up struggling television stations. This aggressive push ultimately led to 1980 when he launched CNN, and it continued all the way to 1996 when he sold his massive media conglomerate to Time Warner.
But throughout this meteoric rise, Turner was anything but your traditional corporate executive. He actually earned the nickname Captain Outrageous. And this wasn't just some catchy media label, it was literally his operating system. Here was a guy who got expelled from Brown University, but then also went on to win the highly prestigious America's Cup sailing competition in 1977. His leadership style was absolutely visionary, for sure, but incredibly unconventional. He was highly competitive, made these incredibly bold public statements, and embraced a risk-taking attitude that frankly terrified traditional boardrooms.
And that outrageous personality, it translated directly into some serious groundbreaking media innovations. When Turner proposed a 24/7 live news network back in 1980, the establishment thought he was completely out of his mind. But CNN completely revolutionized how we consume news worldwide. Beyond that, he pioneered the whole concept of the superstation with WTBS, basically taking a local station and broadcasting it nationwide via satellite. He launched TNT, the Cartoon Network, and even acquired MGM, primarily just to get his hands on its massive film library. He wasn't just participating in the media landscape, he was terraforming it, one cartoon and news bulletin at a time.
But the media landscape is incredibly volatile, and Turner's journey was about to hit its most dramatic and perhaps darkest pivot yet, the billion-dollar roller coaster.
And this brilliantly illustrates just how wild his financial swings actually were. At his absolute peak in 1996, he sold Turner Broadcasting to Time Warner, catapulting him into the ranks of the absolute richest men in the world. He was a multi-billionaire at the very top of the media food chain. But then came the great wealth destruction, the infamous merger between AOL and Time Warner. This deal is historically considered one of the worst mergers in corporate history, and it caused catastrophic financial losses for Turner.
So this catastrophic financial blow, coupled with a loss of influence in the media giant he literally helped build, forced a massive reckoning. Following these historic merger losses, Turner made a really conscious decision. He stepped away from corporate leadership entirely. The man whose entire identity was tied to broadcasting antennas and television screens decided to look downward, straight to the dirt. He focused his remaining wealth on land investments. It's such a fascinating lesson in pivoting, When the digital, corporate world failed him, he sought refuge in the tangible.
Which brings us right into the second phase of his incredible life. Act 2, Bison, Burgers, and Land. Today, if you look at estimates for 2025 and 2026, Ted Turner's net worth sits solidly around the $2.5 to $3 billion mark. Now, compared to modern tech billionaires, you might be thinking, shouldn't that be higher given his historic success? Well, it's because he's sold major assets, faced those massive AOL merger losses we just talked about, and frankly gave away billions to charity. But what makes this $2.5 billion so fascinating is its resilience. While modern tech billionaires watch their net worth swing by billions in a single afternoon based on abstract stock prices, Turner's wealth is remarkably stable. Why? Because it is literally rooted in the ground.
So the crucial point is exactly how this modern wealth is structured today. We can basically break it down into 6 core pillars. The absolute foundation of the whole shebang is his land, which houses his massive bison ranching operation. And yes, the exact same guy who brought you Larry King Live now brings you bison burgers through his restaurant venture, Ted's Montana Grill. All of this is managed by Turner Enterprises, which oversees his ranches and hospitality ventures. He does still maintain some diversified stock holdings, and he continues to earn from media licensing and royalties tied to the vast content empire he built back in the Turner Broadcasting days.
Let's zoom in on that first massive pillar for a second. Ted Turner is consistently ranked as one of the largest private landowners in the entire United States. And we aren't talking about a few nice vacation homes here. We are talking about roughly 2 million acres. To put that into perspective, he essentially owns private land masses the size of small states. He owns these sprawling ranches across states like Montana, New Mexico, and several others. So as market valuations bounce up and down, his net worth stays totally anchored by this sheer, unyielding acreage.
And this incredible land portfolio doesn't just hold his wealth, it completely dictates how he actually lives today. Let's take a look at the billionaire conservationist lifestyle. But before we talk about his day-to-day, we have to mention this huge number right here, $1 billion. Turner isn't just known for accumulating wealth, he's known for giving it away on a truly historic scale. In a totally defining philanthropic moment, he pledged $1 billion to support the United Nations, a gift that directly created the UN Foundation. And this wasn't just some pledged corporate write-off trick, this was an actual billion-dollar cash equivalent. It was a deeply personal commitment, proving that his ambitions had fully shifted from media dominance to global preservation.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer contrast to his old Captain Outrageous days. His daily life now is a stark departure from the frantic control rooms of CNN. Today, he runs a conservation economy. He's managing one of the largest bison herds in the world, heavily funding environmental conservation and wildlife protection, and advocating for nuclear disarmament. He's semi-retired, spending his time quietly managing these massive private ranches. The rebel who built a loud, global media empire is now pouring his energy into quietly protecting the natural world.
Now, part of this retreat into a quiet, private life is also tied to his health. Turner has been diagnosed with Lewy body dementia, and because of this, he has significantly reduced his public appearances. The man who once lived for the camera, who literally revolutionized how we watch screens, has chosen to spend his final chapters away from them. He still oversees his enterprises, but he does it from the peace of his land, surrounded by nature rather than news cycles.
Which leaves us with this final, truly remarkable question to ponder. Ted Turner's life has been an incredible pendulum swing. On one hand, he forever accelerated human connectivity by inventing the chaotic, non-stop 24-hour news cycle, but on the other hand, he has conserved millions of acres of earth, protecting wildlife and restoring natural habitats. So when history looks back at the maverick who changed the world, will his ultimate legacy be the noise he broadcasted into the sky or the quiet earth he saved below it? It's a fascinating duality, and it makes him one of the most uniquely influential figures of our time. Thanks for joining me on this explainer.